All right, we are live. Some of our favorite memories. We have a ton coming through and talking about. We're starting off with us four. Right now, it is me, Pat Lane. With me is Ryan Spagnoli, as you can see. Underneath him is Murph, and then next to him is Taylor Kyles. Guys, how we doing? Everyone's doing good?
Doing well.
Great.
Doing well.
Nice. All right, so
this is the first time I haven't been in a fetal position in 4 days.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
I could see that.
I want to thank you guys for getting me out of there.
Yeah. Let's start off. Hey, listen, we can do what we can. We're all here. It's been a rough few weeks, right? With the coronavirus thing going on, and then also all the anything else. It's been a nightmare, and so we get to chat about some memories and kind of move on. So we'll see. But let's start, Spags. I'm going to start with you. Let's start. We're just going to kind of walk through. So I'm going to start off with you with one of your favorite Tom Brady memories. Spags, you're up.
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to give one, and we'll kind of go around the horn here since it's opening day. I figure we'll go around the horn. But for me, it's got to be, and obviously everyone is like the obvious pick is the 28-3 comeback. But for me, it's got to be Super Bowl 49 for Seattle, just because it put one dynasty to rest and created another one all at the same time, right? If Seattle wins that game, they've won 2 straight. They're on a roll there. They're probably in talks of creating some sort of dynasty. The Patriots win their first Super Bowl in over 10 years. Brady would have lost 3 in a row. What if that would have done to his legacy? And like I said, just jump-started a complete other one. Then he goes on to win 3 more, playing 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 6, 3 straight, like insane run. It just jump-started everything. I think that's what really solidified him as the GOAT and jump-started his career to what's going on now.
Bravo. Great way to – and good leadoff batter.
Yeah.
Am I next?
I agree. It's a great one. Let's go clockwise here. So we'll go to Murph. We'll go to Murph next. Murph, you're up, my man.
All right, man. Well, I'll jump into the way back, and we'll go with the first drive, the drive that started it all. We're going all the way back to 6. And we all remember that what John Madden said, what Tom Brady just did. And if you don't remember, that was Madden after Brady had calmly driven the underdog New England Patriots down to end another dynasty that was about to begin against the 36.
Excellent. And then all right, so I guess that's me now.
Oh, that's another great one.
And then I guess I'm.
Yep. Do it, Taylor.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My thing's a little behind. I can't really hear some stuff. Sorry if I'm just interjecting a little bit. But all right, now I got it. So I'm gonna go with the 2015 AFC.
No, you're good. You're good.
Against the Ravens, because as much as I respect them and everything they do, the Ravens are just I think a lot of people, it's you got the Jets, you got, the Bills, Dolphins, whatever. The Ravens are my team where it's if you beat the Ravens, you're having a good ass night. So this game, obviously, you had the 2 comebacks they had to mount, the 2 14-point deficits, which was just incredible to see them come back both times. And the first score of the game was one of those signature Brady moments where he actually runs into the end zone, spikes it, because you could tell they were just kind of hitting the wall early in that game, and they finally broke through, and you could see that energy. I remember Gillette freaking lit up. I remember I was hype at home. I got out of my chair. I was like, let's go, baby. It was just one of those awesome moments from Brady that we all love. And he spiked the ball. And then you had the I forget who it was. Somebody poked him in the eye or something. Saw him get all fired up, and he was screaming at everybody. There was a ref, too, who got in the scrum a little bit. You don't want to see that. But he didn't get in trouble for it, and it was a really cool moment to see from him. You love to just see Brady get really excited. And then, obviously, the rainbow to Brandon LaFell to close it and sink the game. And That was just a beauty. So in terms of my favorite Brady,
Yeah.
obviously the Super Bowls have their own place in my heart, but this is at the top of the shelf, man. I love that game.
That was a great memory, man. Brady hitting LaFell just right there. That was fantastic. That's a great one.
One of his best passes he's ever thrown. I mean, I'd say it's top 5 for me. And
without a doubt.
For me personally, you know, you mentioned that game, Taylor, and and for me, you know, I have kind of, there's a special place in my heart for that game because I actually left that game at halftime. Was sick at home, and she was like, I don't know if you can go to the game, and you know, she's like, you know, I'm able to go because I'm not feeling well, and we had I had I guess on and an almost 2-year-old, and she's like, you know,
Wahlberg
like,
did.
I don't know, I'm really feeling bad, and I'm like,
what the
yeah,
hell?
I did. So she time and is like, she calls me at halftime, and she's like, you have, and so I was like, what the hell, dude? So shut my phone off. Matter of fact, we're driving away from the stadium, and I got a text from my buddy saying game's over. The Ravens just scored to go up 14 again in the second half. I shut my. I did dinner. I bathed all the kids. I put them to bed, and then Nicole was coming in here and like explain something to me. I'm just, you know, all right. So I go in and I'm watching the game on replay because she had taped the game, obviously, and I'm watching the game on replay in next to the kids' room. So I'm like flipping out, but doing it silently. Basically, all parents know, like and you have little kids at home, you're yelling silently because you just can't. You can't. Kids are in the next room sleeping. So my God, when he ever threw the pass to Amendola, losing my mind, and then I'm still on the edge of my seat because I didn't know how much Nicole had. I'm out of the bathroom throwing up. So actually, so I'm like, so freaking out, and then of course Harmon gets the pick at the end, and it's just oh man, and it's funny because that year was do your job.
That was my favorite year.
Always like a
special
special connection to that. Was I'm a dad.
I think I'm gonna go watch that season from start to finish today. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I think
that maybe the kid what am I gonna do? You know, and that memory for me.
There you go.
Is a face bags.
I agree. It's a great season. My favorite season by far,
Yeah.
to be honest, just because that was
so
I was
we're gonna Murph and Taylor. Yes.
We're spotty here.
A little bit.
little bit spotty for connection, but
right.
So the guys with the good connections are going to leave now, and you guys are going to have some more.
Our own tribe.
We're oh boy.
We still got you, Pat. It's just about 20 seconds delayed. Oh, he just lost us.
Yeah, you just got a serious lag happening, Patrick.
Good.
Taylor and I are going to go make some s'mores.
All right.
You guys have fun.
Go back. Go, Jared.
For now, at least. We're gonna do.
It makes it easier if I just leave. I can't stand up. I'm naked from the frickin' waist down here.
You had the cojones to do what I could not. I thought about it. I couldn't.
Guys, can you still hear me? Still here.
Good. Yep. Shameless plug. Yes. Taylor will be on One Patriot, so everybody check that.
No, we're having some.
Looking forward to
it. So right now we're gonna kick it up at the end here because you guys can still hear me and see me and everything. So, a change of scenery here. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kick out for right now. We're gonna kick out Murph and Taylor. But you know, but I'm gonna see here. How we do it. Come on.
I'll mute myself so you don't hear me
All right.
screaming at everybody else. I wish I said that.
Give me a second. Back, fellas. Keep.
I'm missing. I know it.
Yes. Now, and then there was one.
Oh boy, that's it. Where is everyone else? Guys, can you guys hear me now? Where did everyone else get kicked off? All right. Well, I'm not sure exactly what happened. A little bit of a misstep on my part, but I'm gonna add on Alex Barth. Come on, there he is. And Burned. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey there.
Hey,
well.
all right. I don't know what the heck happened, but
Disney sponsored microphone just for this.
There you
special
go.
meeting, so.
Look at
Hope
this
you-
guy. What a guy.
Well, I hope you're all safe. I know it's crazy times out there, so
Yeah, a
hope
little bit.
everyone's doing good.
It's a. How are things over? How are things over by you?
It's good. It's good. Like the whole country's in lockdown, so. But I'm used to work from
Yeah.
home, so it's not a problem for me. But it's fun to talk about Brady, so that lightens the mood. Even though Brady left the Patriots, but just talking football, talking about something else, getting the mind off what's going on in the world. That's good. It's a good thing.
Right. Yep. Agreed. So on that note, let's kind of continue our discussion here. I know there was a huge breakup. I appreciate people kind of sticking in. But let's start with Alex. Let's go to you.
Sure.
One of your favorite. Let's talk about one of your favorite Tom Brady memories.
So you guys just ran through on the previous segment a bunch of the playoff ones. So I'm just going to go with a couple regular season ones, just for me personally. The game against the Saints, Unicorn Show Ponies, Where's the Beef? I mean, you want to talk about just one of the all-time great days in Boston sports. Like winning a championship, obviously, that's a monumental day. But you talk about like the complete day, right? Start to finish and just having all of it in the picture. Because people forget the Bruins won that day too, I believe. So 3-for-3. But just, I mean, that whole day is just such a great memory. And obviously that touchdown pass is right there at the center of it. I would also go with the first game back from the knee injury against Buffalo, because he had been in the league 10 years at that point, almost 10 years. And that at one point was considered like, is this the end? Will he be the same player? ACL injuries were a lot different back then than they are now. And he struggled at the beginning of that game. People forget that. He did not have a good start initially coming back from that knee injury, turns it around in the fourth quarter, the comeback, the fumble, of course, on the kick return. And then Tom Brady, you are Tom terrific, right? Gil Santos. So that to me was, that was almost the end. That was almost the end 10 years before it should have been. And he kind of pulled himself back from the brink, not from the brink, you know what I mean? And then just a personal one for me is the 59-0 game against Tennessee. I remember I might have been in middle school. I was in middle school, high school. My parents would take my brother out. They had a thing they had to be at all day. So I had the house to myself. It was snowing. I got the fireplace going. I just raided the kitchen. I'm just watching the Patriots tear apart this opponent in the snow, throwback uniforms, just everything about that game. You talk about like the romance of football, right? Everything about that game and about my experience watching it is what we get romantic about with football, at least at a young age. So that one for me, I know that's not like, I mean, it's a great Tom Brady game, but that one's always taken on a little more meaning to me personally, just because of my experience watching it.
Yeah. No, listen, that's great. It's funny that you mentioned those because I'm a season ticket holder, and I just talked about how I was not there for half the Ravens game, but the first two games you mentioned, I wasn't at either of those games either. I was getting my master's degree, and I was going to skip my Monday night class, and they were like, if you skip twice, you automatically. I was like, well, I can't skip that, I guess. Like, I was so mad. And of course, the crazy finish happens, and I was in class for the whole game because it was 6-10. Yeah. It was like a 6-10 class or something like that. So I was in class for most of it. I think I saw like the final. It's ridiculous. But Saints one, my buddy got married, and I remember I'm like checking my phone nonstop, and I was so mad. And my buddy's father pulled his minivan around to the back of the function hall, and we're all crowded around his minivan listening to the game on the radio. And we couldn't believe, Zoe loses his mind, and we're flipping out, jumping up, and like it was awesome. But it's a great memory. And like you said, the Red Sox game. So I'm sleeping at my in-laws that night, and I watched the Red Sox game with my sister-in-law. I watched Ortiz hit the home run, and it was unbelievable. So just what a great day for Boston sports, So, but man, those two games really you mentioned were all great games. They really were. So, all right, Bernd, you're up, my man.
Well, I wrote about, we wrote about our favorite Tom Brady memories on Pats Pulpit when he announced that he would leave the Patriots. And what I wrote about was covering him at the Super Bowl. And Alex, I know you were there as well in Atlanta. I mean, just, watching him in person and watching him on this stage, and now in hindsight, we know it's his last Super Bowl and playoff win with the Patriots. That was an unreal experience for me personally, because I wasn't there for the last two. We sent Rich Hill. Mm-hmm. So just being there, it's crazy. But that being said, when I look at, Tom Brady and the Patriots and what they meant personally to my upbringing, from, this little kid in Austria who just watches the sports for fun and doesn't understand a thing, to professionally writing about it now, I would say the first game I ever watched from start to almost finish was Super Bowl 36. And that's my favorite memory because, I went to school. I was 10 years old. So I asked my parents to tape the game for me. So, back then it was the early 2000s. You had VHS tapes. So my parents put the tape in. Don't worry about it. So I went to school next year, locked myself off completely, which was easy because there was no internet, at least the way we know it. So I got home from school, popped the tape in, and watched the game. And I didn't understand a thing. I only knew that everybody was saying, the Rams, they're going to win, big favorites. And they were almost explaining the rules along the way. That's back in the days, they showed only one game per year in Austria, and that was the Super Bowl. So I watched the game. I kind of felt like, hey, everybody's everybody's saying the Rams are going to win. Of course, I'm rooting for the Patriots, and I'm rooting for this young guy that nobody ever heard of that was playing quarterback. And, Tom Brady, in case you just forgot what history was like. And I watched the video, and I remember the Rams scored a late touchdown to tie the game with 1:20 to go. And suddenly, out of the blue, the tape just ends. Because my parents didn't know how long the game would be, because, time varies. And I never actually saw that final drive live. I never saw that until the next year when they showed it as part of the highlight reel from the previous Super Bowl. That's the first time I saw Tom Brady march down the field. That's the first time I saw Adam Vinatieri kick the field goal. I knew the Patriots won because, the papers were writing about it, but I never actually saw it. And it's still such a vivid memory in my mind, and it's still such a funny story to get to know Tom Brady, if you will, that's still my favorite memory. There's been a lot of them, but that's the special one in my opinion.
So I have kind of a similar story to that.
That's great.
Where I wasn't super familiar with the game. I was 6 that year when they went on that run. And I was just sort of getting into the sport. And we're watching the Snow Bowl. And I remember my parents, because I had school the next day, like you said, like you did, my parents said I had to go to bed by, it was a certain time, whatever it was, maybe like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And I could kind of see, I just wanted to make it to the end of the game, right? I didn't understand playoffs. I didn't understand what that meant, that like this was the whole season or the stakes of the game. I just wanted to be able to say, watch the game start to finish. So I'm watching the clock count down. I'm like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to watch the end of the game. That's all I was rooting for in the moment. And all of a sudden, they stop playing for like minutes. And they're dragging it out, and they keep showing the same play over and over. And I remember getting angry with my dad and my mom and saying, you can't, like, you have to let me stay up later. You can't count this time because there's no game going on. I'm like, this needs to end. This needs to end. This needs to end. Little did I know, I was wishing my way through the tuck room. And that was the
awesome.
problem. Yeah. My parents ultimately let me stay up. But, I look back on that and I always laugh because I just wanted it to end. I was just like, figure out whatever. It doesn't matter. Keep going. Finish the game. And, if I got my wish, there's no Tom Brady. So it's kind of funny. And that's what I've been thinking about a lot in this. And it goes to your point of covering the Super Bowl too, is that, I was lucky. I grew up 5 minutes from the stadium. And I was lucky enough to experience Tom Brady as a little kid who really didn't understand the ins and outs of it, but just watching this guy dominate. And that was all I understood. And that was all I cared about. And then I got to be a little older and I was in high school and I understood it. And I was still a fan, but there was a deeper understanding and deeper appreciation. And then I got to, that same 6-year-old kid who wanted the tuck rule to end so he could see the end of the game is asking Tom Brady a question at the Super Bowl and covering him for 2 full seasons as a credentialed reporter. I got to experience so many different angles of Tom Brady. From a young fan to an older fan to a reporter. And I just, I'm super grateful for that I got all these different perspectives on his career. And I think that, that's something I look at both as a reporter and as a sports fan, something I feel very lucky about.
I mean, a run like that never happened. That's, no guy comes in and wins 6 Super Bowls as a 6th-round draft pick. So just to experience the growth of Brady alongside a personal growth, if you will, that's something that goes beyond sports, in my opinion. And it's really fun to look back on it, and really a lot of appreciation to being able to witness that and to being able to work alongside that. And it was a fun run with the Patriots. That's all I can say. It was really fun, and it was great writing about Tom Brady, watching Tom Brady play, and
And you know what it was too? It was, it was a sure thing. You knew that if you had a crappy week or you were in a bad mood or just you needed a pick me up, you could turn that game on Sunday and Tom Brady was going to make you feel better. And we had that as a constant in our lives for 20 years. And I remember because I went to school in New York and with a bunch of Jets fans and Bills fans, and hearing the way they talk about their quarterbacks and just think but they would talk about, the Bills fans would talk about Drew Bledsoe. The Jets fans would talk about Chad Pennington, right? Those were their childhood quarterbacks. They talked about, the way I talk about Tom Brady, they would talk about these guys who hadn't played in a decade. And it kind of made me feel like, my childhood, I at 25 years old, I got to watch my childhood quarterback go out there, lead a comeback, win a Super Bowl, right? I got to see that. It's like it never really felt like my childhood ended until last Wednesday, which happened to be a week before my 26th birthday.
Yep.
When your childhood ends, you have to get your own health insurance. But it was like, to see the way, to get out of New England and see the way other fan bases talk about their quarterbacks, that is when I got the true appreciation for what we were seeing. And that is part of the reason this hit so hard. And I get the Stidham thing, and people want to get on with Stidham and be like, he's good, let's get behind him. And I think that's fine. I'm good with that. I'm on board with that. But I think there does need to be some recognition that, not just as an X's and O's hit. And I get that sports are their own separate thing and they don't matter in the grand scheme of things. That's fine. But you look at the impact Brady had on so many people just personally, in your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year life, just him being the quarterback of the Patriots, like that's what you're losing here. Not just the quarterback for your football team, but like that element.
I agree. And actually, I do want to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to cycle Alex and Burned off. Don't go away, guys. If you can stick around, I want to have try to have you guys back on, but I do want to bring in Mark and Brian. Not that they're old. I'm not calling you guys old, okay? But they're old enough to remember a time before because my best memory of all time is before Tom Brady. It's actually a Drew Bledsoe memory, and it's specific to me because 1994, as some people may remember, Drew Bledsoe broke the record for most passing attempts and most passing completions in a game against Minnesota, and it was a phenomenal memory, and it has a lot to do with me and my dad and how I was there. But I was 10. And so that's kind of a thing that's kind of burned in my mind, and we'll talk about that, and I'll get more into that. But I do want to introduce Mark and Brian. Guys, welcome on. Thank you for waiting, and let's talk some Tom Brady.
What's going on, Pat? Good to see you guys. Good to see you, Brian.
What's going on? Take it away, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, look. This is 20 years of our lives. And like for me, from where I sit, I guess as somewhat of an elder statesman, I guess, my first Patriots memories are Super Bowl 20, with the fridge dropping a touchdown on our heads, with, the ridiculous New England, the Patriots and we fights on, which was played on like, was a channel like V68. And it was just, you had this like strange sense that somehow this team is going to be able to stop that Bears, 46 defense. It was just a nightmare. And then, obviously a couple years later, well, I guess like 10 years later or so, they make a run to another Super Bowl against the Packers, and Desmond Howard, of all people, wins Super Bowl MVP with 2 kick returns, running past Adam Vinatieri. Like, this was a franchise that, despite those 2 runs, was like struggling for a while. And I think if you ask most New England sports fans sort of in the pre-Brady era to rank your 4 favorite Boston franchises, New England Patriots are coming in 4th in that ranking. And it turns around, and it turns around on a dime when this kid, and what's weird for me is Tom Brady's basically my age. Like, I'm 7 months older than this guy. And so, to see somebody coming into a game that's basically your age, taking over the reins for this franchise that you love, but has sort of let you down from time and time again, and just turn it around on a dime. Nobody saw this coming. It was incredible. And as far as like favorite Brady moments, there are so many that I could talk about, but for me, the one that sticks out in my mind more than anything else is at the end of that drive in Super Bowl 36, when he spikes the ball, They had just gone down the field. John Madden's in the booth screaming that they need to sit on it and play for overtime, but they go out there, they get themselves in position to win this game, and he spikes the ball, and in the midst of all this chaos, and I can only imagine what his heart rate was at that moment, he just calmly like sticks his hand out as the ball like starts to drop back toward the turf and just gently catches it and hands it to the ref. And I mean, it's just – he's my age. He's in the middle of the biggest event of his life, and he's that calm. And then you hear after – that he like took a nap in the locker room before the game started. Like that's who Tom Brady was. Like he was never, afraid of the moment. And that would be the mark of his career, but we were seeing it play out that night. And so, I have other memories I could talk about, but that is one that will always stick in my mind.
Yeah. It would give me chills there, Mark. I mean, Super Bowl, I feel like Super Bowl 36 is like number one. It has to be number one on like everybody's list. I know like all the brackets, anytime somebody puts out a bracket, it's like Super Bowl 36 ends up being the winner, right? And it's, it kicks off the dynasty. And I love the do your job, or I don't if it's the Super Bowl, one of the Super Bowl specials when they talk about, when Brady talks about how Drew Bledsoe comes up to him before that final drive and just says, "Go sling it," like that chills like every single time. For me, like the two Brady moments, like because I'm a Michigan fan too. So and I went to like high school and college in Michigan, and all my buddies are Michigan fans and Detroit Lions fans and stuff. And so I grew up a Michigan fan because my stepdad likes Michigan State. And so, screw you, I'm going to be a Michigan fan. And I remember watching Drew Henson, the Drew Henson, Tom Brady back and forth. And I was like, man, Brady is killing it. Like, why are we going away from Tom? And then Tom ends up coming out on top of that. And then he goes to the Patriots, and the rest is history. For me, Super Bowl 36 is one of my two moments just because my dad drove up from Atlanta to watch the Super Bowl with me and my brother. And then from then on, he drove up every year, regardless of who was in the Super Bowl. He drove up every year, and we watched the Super Bowl together. And I didn't get to see my dad a ton growing up. So that was a really cool thing to share that with him. And then when somebody asks me for the Brady pass that sticks in my mind, it's 10 minutes and 38 seconds left in the fourth quarter of Super Bowl 49 against Seattle, down by 2 scores, and it's 3rd and 14. Third and 14, steps up in the pocket, looks off Bobby Wagner, and just fires an absolute dart to Julian Edelman. If you don't complete that pass, it's probably the game. Down by 2 scores already, then they start giving it to Marshawn, and from there you have a long uphill battle. But like the when you need it throws an absolute missile to Jules. Jules, I still don't know how he survived the hit. He probably didn't. But that's the throw for me. That's the Brady moment, and for whatever reason, it's that one because there's a million of them, right? But that's the one for me that sticks out and it pops up immediately in my head. So that's the one I'm going with.
Yeah. I think that the kids. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, since Brian sort of brought up some throws, I mean, he's right. There are so many Brady throws where it's just like, I don't understand how he did that, especially at his age. I mean, the one that always sticks to me is the opener of the overtime drive against Atlanta, that out route to Amendola, where I just don't know how he put that where he put it. I mean, that's, Brian said he was getting chills earlier. I'm getting chills now just thinking of that one. I mean, that's a deep out route with tight man coverage that he put it in a shoebox. And again, he's 40 at the time? I just, and it's weird for me. Like, again, I'm 7 months older than the guy. My back is hurting right now just talking to you guys. It takes me 40 minutes to get out of bed in the morning. And he's out there slinging it against a very good Atlanta defense that, yes, was tired, but he's putting the ball in an absolute shoebox. And then the overtime drive against the Chiefs. Now, some of those throws were pretty open, but it's 20 degrees. He's playing in a scuba suit. He's got Edelman screaming at him on the sideline that he's too old, and he's coming out there and converting 3 third-and lawns on the road, hostile environment to get to another Super Bowl. I mean, that's stuff. If you pitch that as a movie to Disney, they're laughing you out of the office. They're saying, no, that's not possible. Right. But he's doing it. And I mean, that's just more than anything else. When we had 12, we had a shot. Like, and that's the thing that stings the most, is that confidence that no matter what, we had the guy. Now we don't have that guy. We hope Stidham can be him, but yeah, I'll miss some of those throws, man. I will miss some of those.
Well, that's, I just think, and you mentioned it, and how Brian was talking about it earlier, like the kids, and I think for children, when you start to see success, obviously, and of course, like your sports fandom depends on what you see when you're a kid, and and that's so I alluded to before you guys started, about my favorite moment back in 1994 against the Vikings, and I remember we're losing 20-0. And my dad turns to me and says, okay, if Matt Barr, that's a throwback for you. Hey. Matt Barr hits this field goal, they're going to win the game. And I'm like, get the hell out. There's no chance they're going to win the game. And, of course, they end up winning the game. Bledsoe throws 52 passes in the fourth quarter and overtime combined and hits Kevin Turner for a touchdown pass in my end zone. And that moment to me, out of all the great Brady moments, out of every single moment, with the Patriots, that's still my favorite moment. And not because it meant more than any of the Super Bowls, but because for me as a kid, being at the game with my dad, like that memory sticks in my head. So anytime anyone talks about what's your favorite Patriots moment, that's it. You know what I mean? And so for these kids that grew up on Tom Brady, you grew up with that confidence that it's Brady. Like he does it all the time, every single time. And so not having that in your life anymore is going to be challenging. And even for me, who's, I'm 36, well, almost 36. And but I feel the same way. The majority of my adult life, they won the 01 Super Bowl when I was a senior in high school. So it's not like, so the majority of my adult life, it's been the same thing with Brady, where it's like, we're going to win because we just give him the ball, like I still can't believe we didn't beat Philadelphia in the 2017 Super Bowl because we had the ball down 5 with 2 minutes left. I'm like, there's no chance. Clearly we're going to go down and score and score a touchdown and win the game because that's what Tom Brady does, and so it's stuff like that I'm really going to miss. And I think what people can't understand, and you're right, like we just have to appreciate how great Brady was because nothing can compare to it. Like you can't understand what it was like before, and you can't understand what it's been like for any other team because we haven't been those teams. And so to not have him on our side, yes, we all hope Stidham is the guy, and a lot of us think Stidham is the guy. But does that mean he's gonna be the next Tom Brady? Like, I don't think so. And because there is no other Tom Brady. It's not, you can't say he's gonna be the next Tom Brady because it's unfair to even say that to anyone. So,
yeah, I mean.
All right,
well, that whole thing with being clutch, like I've since come to the realization that, the whole is momentum real, is being clutch real, and like Tom Brady is the ultimate outlier, the ultimate anomaly, right? I mean, because outside of the Brandon Graham sack strip, he's come through in every other possible situation, So it is mind-boggling that every single time they needed a big play, it was Tom Brady providing it. And I mean, it's been pretty dark thinking about the future with Jarrett Stidham because, like Pat said, even if he is quote unquote the guy, it's not going to be Tom Brady. And Tom Brady covered up so many issues with rosters. I mean, to win a Super Bowl with that 2001 team and that roster was insane. The 2003 team, obviously, and 2004 teams were obviously much more talented, but like some of the skill players that he's been working with over the course of his career to put up the numbers and to put up the performances that he's put up, it's mind blowing. And I don't know if they're going to have. You have to have a perfect roster. And in growing up in Detroit, in the Detroit area, and watching Lions fans struggle with this, and watching other fan bases every year say yes, that, be overconfident in their quarterback moving forward, and only to have it not come to fruition every year. I've seen it up close, and it's ugly, and it's what we're headed for right now. Hopefully it turns out better than it could. But we never had to worry about it. For 20 years, you didn't have to worry about the most important position in professional sports in New England, and that's it's going to be quite the change. So, but yeah,
I mean,
better than not having them.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, you're talking about how he was able to sort of mask deficiencies on rosters. You look at the players that caught Super Bowl touchdown passes from him. You've got David Patton. You've got guys that we know. You've got 3 from Mike Vrabel. He threw 3 Super Bowl touchdown passes to a linebacker. I mean, that speaks for itself.
The only thing he couldn't do is catch passes in the Super Bowl.
Right. That's the only thing he couldn't do. And I think if he had
don't do it, You're right. You're right. He probably would. So, all right, let's what I want to do is I actually want to bring Alex and Byrne back on because we're gonna kind of wrap this guy up. Here's Alex and Byrne. Oh boy. Let's hope we don't overheat the system here. So I just want to kind of finish us off, you know what I mean? So yep, there we are. We're all on. So
now it's a party.
I think you're totally right. Someone had mentioned this. That's right. See, now here we are. We're all here to party. You know what I mean? But no, someone had mentioned the 0-1 Snow Bowl. I just want to go back to that moment because again, as a fan in the seats, sometimes a little different as a fan in the seats than it is like for someone at home, just because you see and hear different things. And so, like Alex was talking about how like he was wishing that moment away, and I remember, so obviously the play happens and everything, and then they go to review it. And, we're all dejected. I'm there with my dad and my uncle, and we're dejected. We're just like, this sucks. Like, it's over. And on the intercom, on the radio, the sound system at Foxborough starts playing "I Can Feel It Coming in the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins. And that comes on, and I'm still getting chills thinking about it. And I like turn to my dad, and we all like turn to look at each other, and we're like, oh my God, like something's going to happen. Like something crazy is going to happen. Like there's no way that was an incomplete pass, but like that song is on and we all just felt it. Like something's going to happen. And so then he comes out, of course, Walt comes out and he says, the quarterback's arm was moving forward. And I still, to this day, we didn't hear the rest of it because we didn't need to hear the rest of it. As soon as he said that, the place went ballistic. And then for them to obviously drive down, and I was, that moment to me, like that game, that's probably my favorite Brady game ever because of that. And, you start to look at it. And to me, I felt like I was in the zone then. I remember you guys probably remember when Patton dropped it and Wiggins caught it. And so I sit in the north end zone. So I've always sat. And so I'm behind the play, and Patton drops it, and everyone in my section kind of sat down, and I'm up screaming, Wiggins! And everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, Wiggins caught the ball. They're like, what? And Adam kicked it. I was behind Adam when he kicked it. And so I never saw it. I saw it leave his foot super low. And I'm like, oh no, but never saw it again. And so I looked to the crowd behind, in the south end zone behind that goalpost, and they started going nuts. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And the refs look at each other and they put their hands up, and we just went nuts. It was unbelievable. It's just, and that's the type of stuff where it's like, though that moment will never, I mean, it will never, that changed everything. 0-1 changed everything. Think about it. And you said, Mark, think about the time before then of how much of a loser city Boston was. We were all losers. The Red Sox were losers. The Celtics hadn't won since 86. Like, and even the Bruins hadn't won since the 70s. And so you're like, the whole town stinks and we're all losers. And then that one season, since then, we've won more championships than anyone else. In a 20-year span, it's unbelievable. And so, what we've been able to do since then, it didn't just change the Patriots franchise. It changed, in my opinion, all of Boston sports. And really the fan in Boston is now changed from what he was 20 years ago. It's unbelievable.
I think there's a legitimate tie there too, because, and this doesn't get talked about nearly enough, I think, in this city, is at the end of the day, well, the teams support each other. And that's awesome. And that's one of the things that makes Boston great. They are in some ways in competition with each other, right? You know, which jersey you can buy, Celtics jersey, Patriots jersey, Bruins jersey, which team you can buy tickets for, this and that. And all of a sudden the Patriots roll off, not just in 01, but then in 03, they win again too. If the Patriots don't emerge as this juggernaut, do the Red Sox get aggressive and go out and get Kurt Schilling? Do the Celtics get as aggressive as they did it and pull the trigger to get Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen? You know, these teams were forced to they're not just competing in their own leagues. They were forced to compete within the city for our attention. And so I get like people say like, oh, you know, it's different sports. They all emerge. It's not like they're in the same league, but there is everybody who works in sports is competitive. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that John Henry, Jeremy Jacobs, the Celtics ownership, I know that it was a different owner at the time the Patriots were going off, but I don't think it's unfair to say that they looked over their shoulder, that they looked 20 miles south into Foxborough, saw what was happening and said, we've got to get on this level now. The Patriots are building a dynasty. We have to get to that point to maintain competitive in this city, or this is going to become a football town. And it ultimately did. But I like to think that the Patriots did, in a way, push those other three teams, and then the other three teams pushing back, you know, and it's a snowball effect. But I like to think the Patriots pushed these other teams to get them in gear and create this city dynasty that we've seen for the last 20 years. Forget the 6 Super Bowl rings. I'm talking about the 12 parades there.
It's a good point. Really good point. You watch all my buddies in Detroit at some point, like a couple months ago, it was, or at the end of the last baseball season, the Lions were last in the NFC North. The Tigers were dead last, were the worst team in baseball last year. And the Red Wings and Pistons were both in the bottom of their division last year. And like, I was home visiting family and I listened to Detroit sports radio just for a little bit. And it was the most grim, like, so completely removed from what the Boston fan has at their disposal, has dealt with. It's pretty wild. It's exactly the opposite of what has of your point, Alex, which I think is great, because you have to compete for dollars. I mean, not everybody can just go out and buy a season ticket package to each and every team. You know, a lot of people that are buying season tickets are dedicated to one team. And, you know, if everybody's standing in line to get Patriots season tickets and nobody wants Red Sox season tickets, that's a problem for John Henry, obviously. So that's a good point.
And I think too, like you said, with you know, the other cities and where they're at, you know, how many cities get excited about first overall picks? Do you know who the last first overall pick was in Boston? Bledsoe. And before Bledsoe, it's Sean Thornton. So like we haven't been in a spot like that. And they had the first overall pick. They traded for it and they traded it away. The Celtics did, but like that's you know, I talk to friends who are Bills fans, friends from New York, whatever, and they talk about, oh yeah, you know, it's so cool when you have a first overall pick and it gets a city all excited. I cannot relate to that. I've never experienced that. I was 2 years. Bledsoe was 96. I was 2 years old. It might have been a year and a half old when Drew Bledsoe got drafted. So I have no concept of what a top overall pick is like. I can't wrap my head around that.
My first Patriots game was his rookie year it was the home loss against the Lions in overtime. It was the most, like, looking back, it's the most disgusting game of all time. Like, it was all field goals, and Brisby caught a touchdown at the end to tie it, and they lost in overtime on a Jason Hansen field goal. And like, I think it was who was it, Reynolds or something? The running back had like 20 carries for like 40 yards. It was bad. Old Gillette, you know, or Old Foxborough Stadium.
Old Foxborough.
Old Foxborough. I
love that place. It was a dump, but I loved it.
It's trash.
It was a dump, but I loved. Yeah. I want to point out some of the comments in here. Rick Keeler, hey, thanks for sharing your story, man. You know, living and growing up in New York, and you know, being a Patriots fan, it's pretty cool. So, and the other one is my sister. My dad always tells this story, but I'll tell it to you as well, for those of you that are out there that can't read the comments, obviously. But you know, basically for him, right? He's had season tickets forever. He's had season tickets from 71 on pretty much. And, you know, guys are always laughing. I'm like, what are you doing going to the Patriots games? That's stupid, you know? And he actually remembers giving a legitimate standing ovation for the Patriots crossing the 50-yard line playing at Fenway in the late 60s. And now you don't have 6 banners is unbelievable. And so and we talked about, you know, the kids obviously, but for the adults that have been around, you know, for the old timers, and yes, that's a shot of you, Dad, for the old timers, that have been around and stuck with the team forever, you know, for years. And you see a lot of people around this area weren't Patriots fans. They were Giants fans. They were Redskins fans. They were whatever, because number one, the Patriots games weren't televised. And number two, the Patriots were always terrible. And so they latched onto the team, you know, the Steelers or whoever else. And so, but for those fans that stuck around, that have been here the entire time, it's really kind of, it's unbelievable for them to be able to experience that. And that's something really cool that obviously, you know, hopefully, will never happen again, because, well, I mean, maybe 100 years from now, if the Patriots are terrible for the next 50 years, and then, but won't happen again because of the success we've had for the last 20 years.
I loved hearing like Burns' story about how they play one NFL game a year and you didn't get to see the end of it until the following season. It was like, oh, you missed it. Sorry. Like, you'll catch the highlights next year.
So yeah, now that's why I'm up now every Sunday night watching all the games, because you never know, you know, when it's going to happen again.
Right.
And that's the case. That's the case with Brady. You never know when something like that is going to happen again. I mean, you know, you have Mahomes in Kansas City. You have a lot of talented quarterbacks, but something like Brady, that was like not even Joe Montana did that.
But
that's unique.
Here's the thing about Brady and Mahomes to me. And people are like, oh, see, Mahomes going to break all these records, whatever. Like, Mahomes is coming in 2019. The game favorites quarterbacks right now. Everything is designed for quarterbacks specifically built like him to succeed. When Brady came in, I mean, that wasn't heard of. The kind of things he was doing, it was basically Manning was the only other one who had approached that. The idea of a quarterback being that, you know, it sounds weird now, but the idea of the quarterback being that central to the offense, that crucial, running everything through him, when you had got, you know, you had teams regularly with 2,000-yard rushers. You had Tampa go to the Super Bowl next year with Mike Allstott, and I forget if it was Warwick Dunn or Pittman that year. You know, you had those guys going off. You had, this is a little later, the Sean Alexanders, the Larry Johnsons, the Priest Holmes, the Damian Tomlinsons. These are the guys that offenses were run through. The quarterback was still the field general, but outside of a handful of guys, Marino, Montana, Young, Elway, right? The running back was the superstar. And Brady came in, and there is no Patrick Mahomes if it's not for Tom Brady. There is no Aaron Rodgers if it's not for Tom Brady. None of these guys exist because he was able to allow Bill Belichick and Charlie Weiss to create that system.
I think my favorite play that encapsulates everything the quarterback had to deal with when Brady entered the league was the Ty Law pick 6 in Super Bowl 36, with just how bad Kurt Warner gets absolutely crushed by Mike Vrabel. like you had I mean, it would be an ejection today. Like no questions asked. Like clear, like almost 2 full seconds after releasing the pass, it felt like. That's what they had to deal with
later in that game, and he took the next snap.
Yeah,
tough times.
Yep.
R.I.P.
Yep. So I know, right? So listen, I want to kind of wrap things up. What I'd like to do is kind of go around and give some closing thoughts. I do want to mention Ryan Kieran is not on the show, but he did ask me to mention the Brady pass to Randy that broke you know, was the touchdown to go ahead to make it 16-0, broke the passing touchdowns record and broke the receiving touchdowns record all in one pass. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome there. And also someone mentioned to me the 2006 season where they lost to Manning in the AFC Championship game. Heartbreaking loss, but that's one that would have been an easy Super Bowl victory against a terrible Bears team, maybe the worst team to make the Super Bowl in the last 20 years. And they would have wiped the floor with that team. And unfortunately, of course, the Colts get their only championship in that one. But really some great memories. But I just kind of I'm going to start off, and then we'll go clockwise. So we'll go Mark next, then Brian, then Alex, then Bernd to finish us off. But I just, again, I just want to reiterate, we're just so lucky. I think, and I think what we haven't really, and look, we talked about this last year with this Gostowski getting injured, and we had said, well, you don't understand how lucky we are to have a reliable kicker until we get someone that's not reliable. And then we shuffled through 14 kickers last year, and you're like, wow, maybe Gostowski was better than what we thought, right? And so, of course, that's on a minuscule level compared to what we have in Brady, and I think that we took for granted how good he was. And not even intentionally. I think we all know how good he is, but you can't help but take for granted how great someone is when they're that good and they've been that good for so long. And so, obviously we hope to set him as the next guy, and I tend to think that he is. But again, will there be another Tom Brady? I don't know. I mean, even a guy like Mahomes, you talk about Mahomes, but like Brady didn't just do it for 5 years or 3 years. He did it for 20 years. And so it's like Mahomes doesn't have to be just the best player in the league for the next 5 to 10 years. He has to be the next player in the league for the next 20 years to be as good as Brady was. And so Brady's just on a whole nother level. And so, and shoot, I mean, would it surprise anybody if he went down to Tampa Bay and made it to the Super Bowl this year with Tampa and just dragged them into the Super Bowl this year and threw for 5,000 yards and whatever? Like, I mean, I'm not expecting that, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did it because it's freaking Tom Brady. And so,
I'm kind of expecting.
Anyways, I just that's my take on it. Yeah. So of course you are. So
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, one last sort of memory of Brady that I sort of want to talk about here at the end was just his reaction to the Malcolm Butler interception. Like, to see Tom Brady like just jumping for joy. I don't think I ever remember seeing something like that. And so that moment sticks with me. And another moment, like sort of celebratory moment that sticks with me, is when James White scored in the overtime game against Atlanta, and everybody's losing their minds. And Brady's just like calmly reminding everybody, like, no, they got to review it. They got to review it. It's not a touchdown yet. Edelman comes running over. He's screaming. He's jumping on Brady's back. He's like punching him in the head. And he's like, no, they got to review it, Jules. It's not a touchdown yet. And then I forget who ran over next. And Edelman like grabs the guys like, no, they have to review it. It's like Brady's like calmness, even in that moment, like worked its way down into Edelman. And suddenly he's like, no. Daddy told me I have to, it's not a touchdown yet. I've got to calm everybody else down. Like that just sticks in my mind as well. I mean, just look, the greatest of all time. Like, what else is there you can say about him?
Yeah. It's a good one. All right, Brian, you're up.
Man. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else that hasn't been said, but like it is truly going to be a once in a lifetime, if a 20-year thing can be a once in a lifetime thing, like we won't see this again in our lifetime. And especially with the parity and how the league is working now to actively make sure that they have as much parity as possible. They don't want another they can't have another Patriots team dynasty out there. It's not actively good for the league to have one team dominate for that long, in their minds,
right,
as far as business goes. We just aren't going to see it. And, it's, as from another fan base, like watching this right now and watching us all just talk about like how, having all this like irreverent attitudes about what we watched. I mean, it just shows how important sports are to people, and how much how easy it is to build memories around, and, with family and friends. And I think all of that, Tom Brady plays such a crucial part in all of that for all of us that it's it goes beyond just the on the field stuff. Tom Brady is the guy you tell your kids that's who you want to be like when you approach something, no matter what it is. You attack it with a Tom Brady type mentality, and that's the role model, right? Like, unless it's like a somewhat questionable health company. But yeah, I'm gonna miss him, man. It's gonna be cool to watch him this year. I hope he does great, and yeah, we'll see where it goes from here.
Kind of just
Love it.
To tack on to what Brian said again. I went to school with a bunch of friends who were Bills fans, Jets fans, Giants fans, Eagles fans, and when the Patriots beat the Seahawks in 2014, they didn't get why I was celebrating. They didn't get it. They kept saying, "Oh, who cares? You have a bunch. Like, this can't possibly mean anything to you." The Red Sox had just won. The Bruins win wasn't that long ago. It was like 2-3 years before.
Right.
So they're like, these can't, and even with regular season games, like I get excited about regular season games. I remember would have had to be my sophomore year against the Browns, right? When they should have lost. And then he hit Amendola at the goal line. Amendola ducked under the tackle, scored like a second left, right? And I'm running up and down the hall, the dorm, just screaming. I was like, "Oh my, who cares? You have 3 Super Bowls at the time. You have 3 Super Bowls. Like, it's a win over the Browns." And like, what I want the other fan bases to know is that it's still special. Every time they win, it's still special because it's not just about the title. Take this week where I have nothing to do. I'm trying to figure out if I fill time. I can go and watch 6 Super Bowl DVDs. That's a whole day. Your team wins a title in February, and this has happened to me. Your team wins a title in February. Fast forward July, you're having a bad day. I don't know, something happens. You're in a nasty mood. All of a sudden, you pull open Twitter and you realize, oh, today's the day that they're going to Crafts to get the rings, and there's going to be a bunch of videos of them getting their rings or whatever. Or you're bored someday over the summer in the spring, and you see a highlight video from Brady pop up, or somebody post some mic'd up sound. Like, winning, it's not about that moment. Like, we just have so much of that. It's so hard to, like, they think it's hard for us. It's hard to imagine us and like, oh, these titles can't all mean anything when you've won so many. I can't imagine somebody not treasuring each and every one because they're all different. They're all their own memory. They're all special. They're all individual, right? Nobody, you might have games that get lost here or there. I forgot what year the Browns game was, for instance. I couldn't remember if it was my freshman or sophomore year. You're not going to blend 2 Super Bowls together. Nobody's going to blend 2 Super Bowls together. Nobody's going to blend 2 parades together unless you get drunk enough. But you know what I mean?
It was one big parade there for a while.
That's fair. But you know what I mean? Like, the one thing I want non-Patriots fans to know about what it was like to root for Tom Brady, because I think it's the biggest misconception, at least for real fans. The Pink Hats are the Pink Hats. Can't do anything about them. It never got old. Right. And the true fans never took it for granted. We knew each and every moment how special it was what we were seeing, and we knew that it could be gone any second, especially after the knee injury in 2008. We knew it could be gone any second. So I don't want any other fan base to think that we got complacent or we didn't appreciate it, because I think we did appreciate it in the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
well put.
That says it really well. I think one thing that I would add, I mean, everything about Brady has been said already, but I feel like, being in my position like 5 times on the way, I can add one thing that hasn't been said yet. And it's when Brady announces a departure from the Patriots, there were articles in Austrian newspapers about Tom Brady leaving the Patriots. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That didn't happen when Peyton Manning left Indianapolis. That doesn't happen for any other transaction. But when Brady left the Patriots, that was a story, because he was the face of the NFL, and he still is the face of the NFL for 2 decades. Without him and the success that he brought to the Patriots and in this early internet era, there wouldn't be international games in London. There wouldn't be talk about the Jaguars coming to there every year. Brady turned the NFL into an international product because of his story, because of how he handled things, because of the success he's had. He was truly on the mountaintop of the sport for 2 decades, and he shaped it unlike any other person. I mean, of course you have Belichick, of course you have all those great players and coaches, but Brady is the one that stands out. And if some newspaper in Austria is going to cover him leaving the Patriots, that tells you all you need to know about his status, not just in New England, not just in the NFL, not just in the United States, but as a global icon. I mean, this guy really made the Patriots and the team they are today, the franchise they are today, and this whole global reach wouldn't be possible without him. So that's something we will never see again. And like Brian said, I don't think we will see this in our lifetimes again, because what he did as a 6th-round draft pick in the salary cap era, with all the stuff going on surrounding him, that's unheard of. That's surreal. That's, like Mark said, no Hollywood script supervisor would let that pass, because it's just so unbelievably crazy. But yet he did it, and we should be thankful being able to watch that and cover that and live it. So it was 2 amazing decades.
I think like there's only a handful of these kinds of athletes in our lives, right? Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, Roger Federer for tennis.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, who else?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's crazy. Maybe LeBron. You could make an argument.
LeBron,
that
yeah,
LeBron
sure.
is getting close to that,
but I think some of it too with Brady is the mentality was so much fun to watch. Like LeBron's the best basketball player on the planet, but there's that mean streak. The one I kept comparing him to was Kobe.
Well, that's like the Michael Jordan, right? Like that's what.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Brady got angry when he succeeded. He didn't just get angry when he failed. I mean, you saw him just running down, screaming the fist pump like that. He didn't just want to beat you. He wanted to embarrass you. He wanted to physically hurt you. He wanted it to be that after you were done with him, you never wanted to set foot on a football field again. Right. It wasn't how it wasn't for him. It wasn't, I'm going to win. It's here's how many I'm going to win by. And I feel like that mentality across all sports is really becoming rarer and rarer. And I personally, I love athletes like that. That's my favorite, is guys who just go right for the throat. And that, like, Stidham could be great. The next guy could be great. But to take it to that level is, I mean, we're just not going to see it again.
When you have to have conversations about, is an NFL team running up the score, and is that okay? That's the first time we've ever like that's the conversations they were having during his career. Just incomprehensible stuff. But I don't know, it's awesome stuff.
Well, and I think what's great about it too, and kind of my last piece on Brady, even though I've said like my last piece on Brady like 4 times, but the other part of it is, even with that mentality, you never heard anyone say a bad word about him ever. Everyone that ever had an interaction with him, whether it was a regular person or an athlete or a competitor or a teammate, nobody ever said a bad word about him ever. And even Tampa Bay, it started in Tampa, where they said, well, what do you want? And he said, I just want the phone numbers of the guys. That's it. He didn't want anything. He didn't need anything from them. He didn't need to run the playbook or have control of the offense or say you have to sign this person. He just wants to be able to talk to his teammates. And I think that to me separates him even so much more, because of, yes, like you said, Alex, he wanted to go out and embarrass you and punch you in the face and kill you. But then he's the nicest guy in the world off the field, and you respect the hell out of him, and he respects you, and he's, just the way he played the game. I mean, even look at Joe Mixon last year, right? Mixon, where he was like, he couldn't believe it, and he was so excited to play with Tom Brady, and Brady sent him a autographed jersey, and he was going nuts. And Brady sent him, like, that's the type of stuff, and he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to be nice to people. He doesn't have to go out of his way to do nice things for people, and he does, not because he's trying to be fake, not for the media, not for whatever, just because that's who he is. And I think that to me also put him on another pedestal for me, where I was proud to root for him. And I was proud to say he was my quarterback. And I think that's something that we're going to be losing too, no matter who the next guy is. So, all right. Anyways, listen, guys, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you to Mark and Brian and Alex and Bernd and Murph, who isn't on here, and Spags, who isn't on here, and Taylor, who isn't on here, and we're trying to get Mike on here as well. That didn't come to fruition. But thank you for spending some time with us, and thank you for those of you that were watching and commenting, and we appreciate it. And this is going to be released, the podcast as well, so you'll be able to hear the conversation as well, if you didn't stick around for the YouTube page. But gentlemen, thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Be well.
Thanks for having me.